by a culture that echoes be a man. He is called provider, considered protector by default, but often who protects the boy child. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our second podcast in season 1 under positive masculinity. Today we are tackling the father factor. Aboard to our sponsors, I would like to acknowledge the precious Furniture Nairobi. They have got good chairs, they have got a very amazing fabric that can really beautify your table rooms and bedroom. The details are here on the screen. Please reach out to them. Ladies and gentlemen, once again I have invited a friend. He's a good friend to this podcast, Positive Masculinity. Bwana Joram, we were with him again in this podcast when we were addressing the myth of silence, which is always to be found in our social media handles, YouTube Positive Masculinity, Instagram Positive Masculinity, and TikTok at Joshua Kafupi. Today we are again here with an economist, a social engineer, as you know, the CEO, Revile Organization. Karibu sana Joram.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure being here with you to discuss the growth of the boy child, so to speak. So yeah, I'm happy
when
to
you
hear.
were here, I think it has been 2 weeks when we lastly met, and I've received very positive feedback from my audience that you invited a very courageous man, somebody who looks to be an advocate of this positive masculinity.
Thank you so much.
I think my friend was telling me from how you approached the conversation, from how you must be a positive masculinity.
Yes.
Bwana Joram, on the issues of positive masculinity, now that you are here again, you have been giving it a thought.
Yes.
How have you seen now for the 2 weeks you have been away? What impact do you think you have made?
We've been able to, I would say, to anyone who actually watched that episode and talked to me about what they felt or what they experienced by that podcast, I got some very good feedback. People were pleased with the fact that there is hope, because we discussed, I think, a lot about hope. The hope for young men rising up again. A few of my female friends were very pleased with the fact that I discussed the need for a balance between young men and women.
Interesting.
As well as their safety. So far so good. We're doing a good job. This podcast is doing a good job, and it will echo for eons. The good thing with the internet, it never forgets, so I don't think it will forget this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
As a social engineer on your organization, Revile Organization, that, as you said, lastly tackles on growing youths and making them understand that simply they are like the epitome of change for this country and for the future. Do you think, and are you conscious to the fact that positive masculinity also addresses some challenges we have with the youths?
Yes, it does. A great deal of that, because the conversation of positive masculinity is at the bedrock of defining, of helping men understand what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. Because when you think about innovation, for you to be able to innovate something, you have to innovate yourself. That's the conversation they don't tell us about innovation. For you to innovate something, you have to innovate yourself first. So positive masculinity, this podcast, this conversation, it's helping young men innovate themselves first. Because once they innovate themselves first, they'll be able to create innovations that change how the world works.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now today we are in a subtopic under vulnerability.
Yeah.
This is our second episode and we are tackling the father factor. Lastly we looked at the myth of silence. Today we are looking at the father factor.
Yeah.
Perhaps Joram, I am a strong believer on the fact of men empowering other men, men rising up for other men. There is this saying that iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
Iron sharpens iron. What's your basic understanding of the father factor?
Okay. The father factor, first and foremost, to the audience is very, very important to me. And it's important to me because I have had the pleasure and the joy of having a very, very, very good father. I was raised by a very, very good man, Mr. Steven Githaiga, who is my father. And some of the experiences I have had with my father have helped me a great deal when it comes to becoming a man and becoming the right man, so to speak. Because it's things like, my dad is the one who told me things like, it's okay to cry. If there's a need for you to cry, you should cry. My dad is the one that told me, it's okay to fail. And once you fail, it's okay to rise up. My dad is the one who told me, who taught me about the concept of pride. Pride in the sense of, I am proud of you. My dad is the one who taught me about security, the sense of security that comes from a father to a son, and a son to a father.
Interesting.
So I have to admit, this topic is very, very, very personal to me.
Interesting, John.
And I'm very eager to share a few of the points that I have learned from that, so to speak, experience.
I'll come back to that.
Okay.
I must come back to that.
Okay.
Which family structure have you grown? As in now the setup, as in you get my question?
I get your point. I grew up in a household where my mom and dad were together. Of course, a few issues here and there are normal, but they were always present. I had very present parents. My dad paid attention.
Interesting.
And there was a lot of pressure for us to outperform ourselves and to outperform his standards. Not to mention, of course, I grew up in a household where we don't have sisters.
Interesting. So you are brothers?
Yes, I don't have sisters.
Absolutely amazing. Now you have grown in a family of men.
Yes.
You understand?
So to speak, yes.
You understand what it takes to grow with men, what it takes to you understand the challenges that comes with men.
Yeah.
Your brother number, as in you comes which number?
I am the middle child. I have an older brother and a younger brother. So I got the experience of being subordinate to my brother, who's also like a father figure, and my younger brother, who I have to be a father figure too. Yeah.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
You said you grown in a family where your father was a present father.
Yeah.
What do you appreciate from that? Perhaps you can give him flowers. He may watch this.
My dad, first and foremost, my dad is the one who taught me to be an overachiever. My dad does not believe in the concept of you're a man and you should have limits.
Interesting.
Especially when it comes to ambition. He believes that you should. I learned that firsthand from watching him do it. Beyond the saying, I watched him do it. I watched my father build his career in the health sector. I watched my father fail in business and come back again. I watched my father get into debts of millions and rise up from that. I mean, so I'd say I've had the gift of having to see some of the challenges men face and how they deal with them. So in that particular area, my father has done a very good job. Not to mention how he's been very vocal about how we should deal with our emotions, with our mental states, and the sense of security that if I fail out here, I can always go home.
Joram, there is this question that I would be really interested to know.
Okay.
Perhaps today I'm also learning.
Okay.
I'm also learning.
Okay.
Because I've grown in a structure where we have sisters, we have so the concentration is to the sisters, to the brothers. So I may not have enjoyed now the father factor like you did. Are there times that now you have had a conversation, you and your dad in a room, you tell him, perhaps dad, I've gone through this, your dad tells you at this age you will have these challenges in relationship, this is the solution. He tells you, my son, at this age you will get this is the solution. Perhaps you will have financial things with financial issues, this is the solution. Have you had such instances?
Definitely yes. I have had instances where I sat down with my dad and we talked about deep stuff. I'll give you an example. The worst breakup I've ever had, my first reaction was to call my dad. It was so bad. I called my dad and my dad was like, just pick your stuff and come home. So when I went home, we sat down, we went out, we didn't do it at home, we went out. And we sat down and he talked to me about how it's okay to have your heart broken. It's okay to love. And even when your heart is broken, it's okay to give love a second chance. And then he was also very keen about, as a man, you need to focus on your goals. Usieke, okay, weka mapenzi kwa roho lakini goals ndizo za kwanza. Because even women, they're looking for men who have a sense of direction. But I should also clarify, it wasn't always sunshine and roses. Because you see, where your father is present, sometimes there's always that weight of you can't venture out on your own sana, because you feel like your father has already created a path and you are expected to follow that path.
Interesting.
Of which now young men who don't necessarily have very, very present fathers, you wake up and you decide, this is what I want to do with myself. And that is why most young men who come from very stable families, they often end up making so many mistakes, because it's like their whole thing, their whole lives is being controlled by the expectations of their families.
Joram, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm also challenged because I'm always vocal about the issues of positive masculinity. I'm an ambassador myself, but even my father do not know I'm dating.
Okay.
That's a challenge to me. That's a challenge to me. I have to go back. Me and others, and many others who are watching, we have to create at least an attractive bond with our dads. Because what we are going through, they went through it.
Yeah.
They married our moms. Perhaps they have had breakups. Perhaps they have had challenges in their relationships. Who knows? They also would have been in this subject of drug and substance abuse.
Yeah.
And some of them managed to break through. Ladies and gentlemen, and Joram, one thing I'm learning from you is that we need to create that bond with our dads.
Yes, definitely.
How many times do you talk with your dad? Perhaps in a week?
Okay, before I respond to that question, let me introduce another element. My dad is the type of a parent who, if you want to build a stronger relationship with him, he's open. But most of the times, it's not always like that. And in situations where your father doesn't want, or you and your dad don't have a relationship, it's upon you as a son. There is a need for you to build a relationship with your dad. Because there is always the challenge of, we feel like our dads, maybe you want to be an overachiever, and your dad isn't a man you look up to. But even if your father is a drunkard, he's a man you should sought after.
Exactly. Because
there is a need for him to give you his blessing.
Interesting, yeah.
When was it? I think this week or last week, one of them, I don't remember. My dad sent me a video, and that video was saying, there is only one man who wants you to be ahead of him. And that man is your father. There is not a single man in the world. It's not, I don't want you, Joshua, to be ahead of me. You don't want me to be ahead of you. But your dad wants you to surpass what he has done. He wants you to be better. So there is a need for us to build those relationships. Even though it is difficult, we have to try. Because sometimes a lot, we are not like women. We don't need to say a lot.
Exactly.
But there is a need for you if you're working on something. Just go and tell your dad, oh, and by the way, I've been thinking about. Oh, and by the way, I'm working on. Now, to answer your question, how often I talk to my dad, I think I do my best to talk to my dad every 2 days. I think every 2 days.
Every 2 days.
Yeah, even if it's not going to be on call, we'll text.
Exactly.
But we have to have a call every week.
Interesting. Perhaps that's a great lesson.
And in addition, sorry for interrupting, every year, every end of year, December, if not December, you find a time that's convenient for your family. Find time if your dad is present. Go sit down with your dad for an hour or two. Just tell him, this is what we've been able to do this. I've been able to do this year, and this is what I want to be able to do next year. Let him also tell you, this is what I want to do with our family, and this is what I want you to do next year in this family.
Exactly.
So you align your goals with his goals so that you work together.
Exactly.
You move forward, because at the end of the day, your work as a young man is to push for the legacy of your family.
Exactly.
Because your dad picked up the mantle, you're picking up the mantle from him. You have to work together.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Perhaps there is this thing that I see in, when we have Father's Day. If you look at many social media platforms, you see ladies posting them and say, "Happy Father's Day to me. I've acted like a father when he was not there." But I am a strong believer that there is a blessing that comes with a father. Perhaps in your understanding, what's the role of a father in a man? And can a lady play that role?
Now, the best way I can answer that question is this. First and foremost, it is it's okay not to come from a family where you don't have a dad. And it doesn't mean just because I come from a family where I have a dad, I'm better than you. And it also doesn't mean I understand masculinity better than you.
Exactly.
So it's okay to come from a family where you don't have a father. But if you're a young man, you ought to aspire to be you ought to aspire to be a good father. You ought to aspire to be a better brother.
Interesting.
Especially when it comes to your younger siblings. I do my best to sometimes my dad is not going to be present, but I do my best to be present for my younger brother when my dad is not.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I want to be the type of a father who is present for his son, because I want to approach my son from this sense, and I feel like every young man should approach their future children in this sense. What do you want? Find out what you want, my son, and the minute you find out, you are allowed to try, to fail again. I'll always be here. I will do my best to support you in that endeavor.
Exactly.
And it's okay. You see, that aspect of being present, it is very necessary. Now, the role of a father is this. Number one, you have to be present for your children to look up to you. Because the role of a father supersedes being a father to a son.
Exactly.
So to your daughter, what kind of a man do you want your daughter to be with? You have to be that. She has to see that in you first. Because I was listening to Miles Monroe talk about, he took his daughter on a date. And he did that so that she knows exactly, he was setting a precedence or a standard. So that when your daughter is leaving the nest, she'll know I'm supposed to get flowers. So she'll only deal with men who give her flowers. And then your son, the father element now, father to son. Now, if you slap your wife, you think your son is not going to slap his wife?
Yes, don't. It's likely to do so.
Exactly. So you act as people. You have to understand that your children are watching. That's number one. Number two, you have to be present emotionally. If your mother tells you she loves you, and your father tells you he loves you, it means more. Whether you're a boy or girl, it means more when it comes from your father. The other thing, you are an example. Example in this sense. I've watched my father fail in business. Do you think I'm going to fail in the same businesses?
No.
And my father also expects I'm not going to fail, because he told me, I did this, this is where I went wrong, so learn from that and be better.
Exactly.
So in the same sense, you should aspire to be better than what your father has been, but you'll also make mistakes.
Exactly.
And you should be willing to let your children know I made a mistake in this area.
Perhaps allow me interject in what you said.
Yeah.
Perhaps in your conversation about the father factor, especially your last conversation, I've heard you mentioning of some of the mistakes now that we do.
Yeah.
Now that the fathers do. Please, could you summarize? You know, we are living in a society where men are toxic.
Yeah.
And that toxicity in men is attributed to their fathers.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Now, please, you can try to summarize now the common mistakes fathers make that now affect the broader perspective of masculinity.
Okay. Based on what you said, number one, everyone is toxic, including women.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Number two,
but I was to mean that the toxicity of men is attributed to their fathers.
Yes, I get that, and I also want to declutter that.
Exactly,
absolutely.
Okay.
For example, the reason why some men are toxic isn't just because they have daddy issues.
Amazing.
It's also because they have mommy issues. Mommy issues are a thing. Okay, mommy issues come up in this sense. Think about what? There's a young man who doesn't trust women because he doesn't trust his mother.
Exactly.
There's a young man who has a poor relationship with his mother, and because of that poor relationship, he doesn't like women.
Exactly.
Where am I getting to at that? Okay, what I'm saying is, okay, now, to come back to now some of the mistakes we are making, we don't want to address, our fathers grew up very differently from we did. Their society, by default, men were on top.
Amazing.
So that's a change. That's a change. So maybe to us, we might see as though our fathers are failing, but to them they are not failing because of the conditions that were set your time. Sisi, conditions zetu ni different. So I guess, now, one area our fathers are failing is they're not telling us that how they grew up and how we're growing up is different. Some of them are failing because they're not being responsible, they're not providing for their children, they're not providing for their families.
Yeah.
Another area is they don't want to tell their children, I'm encouraging you to be like this because of this.
Yeah.
So like for example, your dad will tell you, don't date early. He won't tell you why you shouldn't date early.
Yeah.
You know, he should be able to tell you why you should date early, why you shouldn't date early. A better example is this. For example, when I had my heart broken and I went home, my dad gives me instances of where he made the same mistake. So now, assuming he had told me previously those mistakes, do you think I would have made them?
No.
So you see, those are things that need to be addressed. The other area where our fathers, I would say, are failing. Our fathers are chasing after girls our age.
Interesting. Yeah.
So we are having to compete with men the ages of my father, and they have had time. My dad is 50. He has had 30 years of adulthood to find himself, to kuivia biashara, kuivia career yake, all that. How long have I had? I'm only 22.
So you have had less than 10 years.
Yeah, technically I've had like 3 years because you can't say an 18-year-old is an adult.
Yeah.
But pretty much 3 years, and someone is expecting me to be driving the same car my dad is driving. That cannot be possible. So those are some of the areas where I would say their generation has failed, and we need to correct that. Because I'm very much pro. If you want to have children, please, you need to raise your children in a family setup. Have a wife, be loyal to that wife. So raise your children in that setting. It's going to be good for them. But now the concept of constantly jumping and everything, it's creating a lot of unnecessary drama and trauma.
And very lastly, Joram, on this topic of the father factor,
yeah.
What perhaps do you think, or do you think now in your understanding, is men being absent bringing about toxic masculinity? Simply this issue of vulnerability that we are attributing is to the father factor.
Yeah.
It may be only it's my understanding. Perhaps in your understanding, do you see like absence of men promotes toxic masculinity?
Yes. All the flags point yes.
Amazing.
And this is the reason. Now, it's like I have said. If your dad shuts your mom up when she's about to express herself, the likelihood of you telling your girlfriend to shut up, she shouldn't talk, is very high. The other aspect, the concept of having fathers that are not present was introduced to us by the British. The British are the ones that built a culture of men who are not present for their children or their sons. They simply provide. Because think about this. Traditionally, young men, after they underwent initiation, who would they spend their time with going forward? Their fathers. Why? Because only your father will be able to understand how you should behave and what you're feeling and what you're going through and why.
Exactly, yeah.
So that lack of presence has created a lot of problems.
Amazing.
That lack of presence. So the father aspect, it's very key. It's very key. And I'll repeat this again. It's okay if you don't have a father, but you should aspire to be a present father if you want to have children, that is.
Interesting. Perhaps simply to summarize it all, Joram is agreeing to the fact that as fathers, be available to your son. The son-father relationship needs to be actually improved. Perhaps the issues we have in our society today of toxic masculinity, to some extent, if men go back and address them as men, perhaps I understand hii shida tuko nayo as men haijaletwa na the other gender, tumejiletea sisi shinda wenyewe. Perhaps sure. if we actually regenerate this issue from a point of view and go back to the society and say men need to rise for other men. And my last question, men being unavailable emotionally, where men are completely unavailable emotionally to their sons. What is the effect or rather the impact of that? Is it negative or positive?
Now, it's very negative. It's very negative. And it is negative because we have more than one need.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll put it like this. When I went to some very good primary schools. And even though I went to an expensive boarding school, I remember very well that whenever my dad wasn't present for maybe prize giving day, it would break my heart. Like, yeah, I get it, he's busy and everything, it's not his fault, he would have loved to be there, but there's a sense of confidence that I would project anytime I would have an event and my dad was seated back there, nikitua zawadi yangu.
Exactly.
Like, if it's the mom, yeah, it's still important, like, you feel loved because your mom will shower you with love, but presence with men,
amazing.
your dad just looking at you there, I mean, that one sets everything apart.
But it's a challenge to many men. Wanalipanga tu fee, they don't know what's happening.
And I think, okay, it's why I said maybe their generation, the way they were raised, that was different. Because provision was necessary to them. To us, provision is it's a what? It's a requirement.
Exactly.
Provision is a requirement.
But not that much a necessity.
It's yes. Right now, the areas that we need to address as a generation are being present emotionally. Which is why I talk about if by the grace of God I father sons, hey, but I'll be very present.
I will also. I also admit I must.
I have to be very present.
I also have.
I have to tell my son, because I remember those stages. I remember what I was feeling when I was 9. When I was 9, I was just starting to discover things I'm interested in. It's when I started reading books. It's when I started reading history.
9?
Yes, when I was 9. My dad would buy books and he'd bring them home. That time, that's when you begin to develop concrete interests. So I have to be there for those children. I have to be there for those milestones.
Amazing.
Because you see, I know, have you ever heard of the concept of prodigy children? Prodigy children are these kids when this kid is like 9 or 10 or 15, but they have they are masters in their fields. You've heard of grandmasters in chess who are 15,
Exactly.
violinists. Those children are like that because they've had very present parents.
Amazing.
So if we want to create a generation of young men who are stronger, who are more advanced, who are more skilled, we teach them at that age.
Exactly.
We teach them to invest from as young as 9. We teach them to be present, to be emotionally mature from those ages.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Perhaps thank you very much, Joram. On the issue of the factor of the father factor, we are getting it right, and actually we can't see men fail. We must rise up for them. That's why such conversations are very important and vital to this generation.
Yeah.
Allow me, before I allow you to give your parting shot, allow me give a story, perhaps that is given by our friend, our great coach, Pastor Robert Brale. You know Robert Brale?
Yes.
Robert Brale gives a story of a man who fell into a ditch.
Okay.
And the ditch was so deep, and then he heard the footsteps of a man approaching from far. This man was a doctor. Then he came, the man shouted, "Help me." And the man took a pen and a paper and drew it, saying, "When you come out, not when I help you, when you come out, come to the hospital, I'm a doctor, I'll treat you for free." And the man walked away. And then he heard footsteps of another man approaching. This time is a lawyer. And the lawyer again wrote, took a pen and a paper and drew it, saying, "When you come out, again not when I help you, when you come out, come to the law firm. I'm a lawyer. I'll sue the company that dug the hole and did not feel it." And the man walked away. And then the third person, this time the man in the ditch is feeling dusty. He's mounted the energy to shout, "Help me." You know what? I have been in this hole before. I know the way out. We want those former thugs, former gangsters. And those are our fathers, not our mothers.
Yeah.
They have been in this issue, the challenges we are going to come and hold as hands and tell us.
Yeah.
We have been in this hole before.
Yeah.
We know the way out.
Yeah.
Not telling us we know the way out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the requisite solution of all this.
Yeah. True.
What's your parting shot, Johan?
My parting shot is going to be very easy. I'll encourage young men to support other young men, especially in corporate. Let's say you're in the business sector, you have a connection, share it with another young man. Finally, Revile is very open to young people, especially young men. So I'll just share our social media handles. You can email us if you want to be a part of Revile via revile.org@gmail.com. You can find our social media handles on TikTok, Revile Organization Ltd on TikTok. On Instagram, we are Revile ORG. On YouTube, we are Jordan Butaiga. And finally, if you want to reach us via phone, you can just reach us through 0797087801. Thank you so much for having me, sir.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate.
Okay.
You are a friend to the Positive Masculinity team.
Always.
And thank you for always showing up.
I'll always be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, I urge you to support, to continue supporting us. We can't take your support for granted through our social media handles, Positive Masculinity YouTube channel, Positive Masculinity Instagram, Josh Kafupi TikTok channel. Continue subscribing and liking our content. We are bringing more to you. Perhaps, if I may say my last and my parting shot, you are the master of your fate and the captain of your soul. For what you think perhaps you are the product of your thought. Thank you very much. Goodbye.